What is it that weighs you down? What is it that keeps you tethered to a past that no longer serves you? Meet Barbara, 75, from Boston, who discovered that her greatest burdens weren't the physical aches of aging, but the emotional weights she'd carried for decades. I spent years feeling anchored by things I couldn't even name, she shares. Now, at 75, I feel lighter and more peaceful than I did at 60. The secret? Learning what to throw away, not just the physical clutter, but the invisible burdens that prevent you from living with the clarity, peace, and dignity you deserve in these precious years. Recent studies show that 68% of seniors over 70 report significantly better mental health when they learn to let go of these emotional anchors. Before we explore the 5 things you must discard for a peaceful life after 70, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom that could transform your golden years. Now, let's start with the most surprising burden that might be holding you back. 1. Toxic relationships, the heaviest weight to release. As we age, our relationships shape more than just our social circle. They profoundly impact our health, happiness, and peace of mind. After 70, every moment becomes precious, yet many seniors spend countless hours managing draining relationships that rob them of their golden years' joy. These toxic connections aren't always obvious. They often masquerade as long-term friendships or family obligations that we feel compelled to maintain. Dr. Sarah Thompson, a geriatric psychologist with 30 years of experience, explains that toxic relationships in our later years can significantly increase stress hormones, leading to elevated blood pressure, disturbed sleep, and even accelerated cognitive decline. What many seniors don't realize, she says, is that maintaining these harmful relationships can be more damaging to their health than smoking or lack of exercise. But how do we let go of these relationships, especially when they've been part of our lives for decades? The process begins with recognition. Ask yourself, after spending time with certain people, do you feel drained rather than uplifted? Do you find yourself dreading their calls or visits? Do they consistently dismiss your feelings or make you doubt yourself? These are clear signs that the relationship may be toxic. The next step is setting boundaries, something many of us weren't taught to do in our generation. Start small. You don't have to cut people off completely. Instead, begin by limiting your exposure. If a certain relative constantly criticizes you, reduce your visits from weekly to monthly. If a friend repeatedly demands your time and energy without reciprocating, practice saying no to their requests without feeling guilty. The benefits of releasing toxic relationships are often immediate and profound. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that seniors who consciously distance themselves from negative relationships experience a 60% improvement in their mental well-being within just 3 months. Many report better sleep, reduced anxiety, and more energy to spend on activities and people that truly bring them joy. Here's my practical advice. Start by identifying one relationship that consistently drains you. Create a simple action plan to reduce its impact on your life. This might mean screening calls, limiting visits, or having honest conversations about your needs. Remember, at this stage of life, you've earned the right to prioritize your peace. Let me share Margaret's story, a 78-year-old retired teacher from Denver. For years, she maintained a friendship with a former colleague who constantly complained, criticized her choices, and left her feeling emotionally exhausted after every interaction. I kept telling myself that's just how she is, and 40 years of friendship meant I had to accept it, Margaret recalls. After learning about toxic relationships at her senior center's wellness workshop, Margaret decided to make a change. She began by reducing their 3 weekly phone calls to 1, and when they did talk, she set a gentle time limit. The first few weeks were uncomfortable, she admits, but then something remarkable happened. I started sleeping better. My children noticed I was more relaxed. I even started painting again, something I'd given up because I was always too drained. Today, Margaret maintains a polite but distant relationship with her former friend, and her life has blossomed in unexpected ways. At 78, I finally learned that friendship should lift you up, not wear you down. It's never too late to choose peace. Think about your own relationships. Is there someone in your life who consistently drains your energy? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help others recognize similar patterns in their lives. Remember, choosing to distance yourself from toxic relationships isn't selfish. It's a vital step toward the peaceful life you deserve after 70. 2. The need for approval. Breaking free from the people-pleasing trap. After 7 decades of life, many of us still find ourselves seeking approval from others, a habit deeply ingrained since childhood. For seniors, this constant need for validation can become particularly exhausting, stealing the peace and independence we've earned in our golden years. Recent studies show that over 65% of adults over 70 still struggle with saying no or expressing their true feelings for fear of disapproval. This need for constant approval manifests in various ways: saying yes to social obligations we'd rather avoid, keeping quiet about our preferences to maintain harmony, or changing our behavior to please adult children and grandchildren. Dr. Michael Roberts, a senior wellness specialist, notes that this pattern often intensifies with age as we become more dependent on others and fear losing their support or affection. Breaking free from this pattern requires a gentle but deliberate approach. Start by practicing small acts of authenticity. When asked about restaurant choices, express your genuine preference instead of defaulting to whatever everyone else wants. If you don't feel up to attending a social gathering, politely decline without elaborate excuses. These small steps build confidence in expressing your true self. The key is understanding that respecting your own needs isn't selfish. It's essential for your well-being. Try this practical exercise. Each morning, ask yourself, what do I truly want today? Not what your children expect, not what your friends might prefer, but what would make you feel content and at peace. Then take one small action aligned with your answer. The rewards of releasing this need for approval are transformative. Many seniors report feeling an incredible sense of liberation, as if a heavy weight has been lifted from their shoulders. They discover more authentic relationships, better boundaries, and most importantly, a deeper sense of self-respect. Their interactions become more genuine, and surprisingly, others often respond positively to this newfound authenticity. Here's my practical advice. Create a permission notebook where you write down things you want to do or say, but have been hesitating about. Review it regularly and choose one item to act on each week. Remember, you've lived long enough to earn the right to be yourself without apology. Let me share Helen's story, an 82-year-old grandmother from Chicago. For decades, she prided herself on being the perfect grandmother, always available, never saying no, constantly adjusting her schedule and preferences to accommodate others. I thought being loved meant always putting everyone else first, she explains. The turning point came during a family dinner when she found herself exhausted from preparing elaborate meals she could barely eat due to dietary restrictions. Her daughter noticed her fatigue and suggested ordering takeout instead. At first, I felt like a failure, Helen recalls, but then I realized I was holding on to standards that were making me miserable. Gradually, Helen started expressing her needs more openly. She began hosting simpler family gatherings, spoke up about her preferred visiting times, and even started saying no to babysitting when she needed rest. To her surprise, her family respected these boundaries. My daughter told me she was proud of me for taking care of myself, Helen shares. Now, our time together is more genuine and enjoyable because I'm not constantly exhausted from trying to be perfect. What standards or expectations are you holding on to that no longer serve you? Are there areas in your life where you're still seeking approval at the expense of your own peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey might inspire others to embrace their authentic selves. Remember, at 70 and beyond, the only approval you truly need is your own. 3. Past regrets. Letting go of yesterday's weight. After 70, regret can become a heavy companion, casting shadows over our present moments. Research from the Harvard Aging Study reveals that 82% of seniors struggle with persistent regrets. Career paths not taken, words left unsaid, relationships that ended poorly, or time not spent with loved ones. These regrets aren't just memories, they're active burdens that can significantly impact our mental and physical health in our later years. Dr. Elizabeth Carter, a geriatric counselor, explains that dwelling on past regrets releases stress hormones that can weaken our immune system, disturb sleep patterns, and even accelerate cognitive decline. When seniors constantly replay their regrets, she notes, they're not just remembering the past, they're actually preventing their bodies and minds from thriving in the present. The path to releasing regrets begins with understanding that they serve no constructive purpose. Instead of viewing past decisions as mistakes, try seeing them as chapters in your life story that helped shape who you are today. The key is to transform regret into wisdom. Each evening, take a moment to write down one regret that's been weighing on you. Then beneath it, write what that experience taught you and how it made you stronger or wiser. When you feel regret surfacing, practice this 3-step approach. First, acknowledge the feeling without judgment. Second, ask yourself, what can I do with this lesson today? Finally, take one small action that applies this wisdom to your current life. This might mean making that phone call you've been postponing, expressing appreciation to someone important, or starting a new hobby you've always wanted to try. The benefits of releasing regrets are profound and immediate. Seniors who learn to let go report better sleep quality, reduced anxiety, and more energy for current relationships and activities. Many discover a renewed sense of purpose and find themselves more willing to try new experiences, knowing that living fully today is the best way to prevent future regrets. Here's my practical advice. Create a wisdom journal where you transform each regret into a positive lesson or action plan. For example, if you regret not traveling more when you were younger, instead of dwelling on past missed opportunities, use that energy to plan a trip now, even if it's just to a nearby town you've never explored. Remember, it's never too late to create new, joyful memories. Meet Richard, a 76-year-old retired accountant from Seattle. For years, he was haunted by his decision to prioritize work over family time when his children were young. I would lie awake at night, replaying all the school plays and baseball games I missed, he shares. The regret was affecting his relationship with his adult children as he constantly apologized for the past instead of enjoying their present moments together. Through a senior wellness program, Richard learned to channel his regret into positive action. Instead of repeatedly expressing remorse, he began creating new traditions with his grandchildren. He started a weekly storytelling session where he shares life lessons and family history, turning his past experiences, both good and challenging, into valuable wisdom for the next generation. I realized that my grandchildren don't need my regrets, Richard reflects. They need my presence, my stories, and my love right now. Understanding this helped me finally let go of the past and focus on making today meaningful. What regrets are you carrying that it's time to release? How might those past experiences be transformed into wisdom for your present life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story of letting go might be exactly what another person needs to hear. Remember, after 70, every day spent free from regret is a gift you give yourself. 4. Fear of death. Embracing life's natural journey. After 70, thoughts about mortality naturally become more frequent, but for many seniors, these thoughts can transform into overwhelming fear that overshadows the joy of living. Recent studies from the National Institute on Aging show that 73% of adults over 70 experience anxiety about death. Yet those who learn to make peace with mortality report significantly higher life satisfaction and emotional well-being. Dr. James Anderson, a geriatric psychiatrist specializing in end-of-life counseling, explains that fear of death often manifests as excessive worry about health, reluctance to make future plans, or avoiding meaningful conversations with loved ones. This fear doesn't protect us, he notes. Instead, it prevents many seniors from fully embracing their remaining years and creating lasting memories with those they love. The path to releasing this fear involves a gentle shift in perspective. Start by acknowledging that death is not an enemy to fight, but a natural part of life's journey. Practice mindfulness exercises that focus on appreciating the present moment, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of grandchildren's laughter, the taste of your morning coffee. When anxious thoughts arise, try this simple grounding technique. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. By making peace with mortality, something remarkable happens. Many seniors discover a newfound freedom to live more fully and authentically. They report deeper, more meaningful conversations with loved ones, greater appreciation for daily pleasures, and increased motivation to pursue long-postponed dreams. The focus shifts from fearing what lies ahead to cherishing what exists now. Here's my practical advice. Create a Living Well journal where you record daily moments of joy, gratitude, and accomplishment. Set small, achievable goals that bring meaning to each day. Consider joining a senior discussion group where you can openly share your thoughts and fears with others who understand. Remember, acknowledging these feelings takes courage, and you're not alone in this journey. Let me share Grace's story, an 83-year-old retired nurse from Minnesota. After losing her husband, Grace found herself paralyzed by thoughts of her own mortality. "I was so afraid of death that I stopped living," she admits. "I declined social invitations, stopped traveling, and barely left my house. My fear was robbing me of the very life I was trying to hold on to." The turning point came when Grace joined a senior wellness group at her local community center. Through discussions with peers and guidance from counselors, she began to shift her perspective. Instead of viewing each day as one closer to the end, she started seeing it as an opportunity for new experiences and connections. Grace began a project she calls her Legacy of Joy, teaching her great-grandchildren to bake family recipes, recording stories from her life for future generations, and volunteering at her local library's children's program. "I realized that being afraid of death wasn't keeping me alive. It was preventing me from truly living," she shares. "Now I focus on creating moments that will live on in the hearts of those I love." Today, Grace approaches life with serene acceptance. "Of course, I still have moments of anxiety," she admits, "but they no longer control me. I've learned that the best way to face mortality is to fill each day with purpose and love." How do you cope with thoughts about mortality? What helps you stay focused on living fully in the present moment? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your wisdom might help others find peace with this universal human experience. Remember, making peace with mortality doesn't mean giving up on life. It means choosing to live more fully and authentically in the time we have. 5. Belief that change is impossible. Embracing growth at any age. One of the most limiting beliefs that many seniors hold after 70 is that they're too old to change or learn new things. Recent research from Stanford Center on Longevity reveals that 78% of adults over 70 believe they're too set in their ways to make meaningful changes. This self-limiting belief acts like an invisible prison, preventing many from experiencing the joy of growth and new possibilities in their golden years. Dr. Rachel Martinez, a specialist in adult development, explains that this mindset can have serious consequences for seniors' mental and physical health. When we believe we can't change, we stop trying, she says. This leads to decreased brain plasticity, reduced physical activity, and often social isolation. Studies show that seniors who believe in their ability to change maintain better cognitive function and experience slower rates of physical decline. The key to breaking free from this belief lies in taking small, consistent steps toward change. Start with something simple that interests you. Perhaps learning to use a new feature on your smartphone, trying a gentle new exercise, or exploring a different recipe. The goal isn't to transform your entire life overnight, but to prove to yourself that change is still possible. Each small success builds confidence for larger changes. When you embrace the possibility of change, remarkable transformations occur. Seniors who shed this limiting belief report increased energy levels, improved relationships with family members, and a renewed sense of purpose. Many discover hidden talents or passions they never knew existed, proving that life can continue to surprise and delight us at any age. Here's my practical advice. Create a growth diary where you record one new thing you try each week, no matter how small. Celebrate these achievements and don't judge yourself for any setbacks. Remember, change isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Surround yourself with supportive people who encourage your growth and share your successes with them. Let me share Frank's inspiring story, a 77-year-old former factory worker from Michigan. After retiring, Frank convinced himself that his learning days were over. "I thought I was too old to try anything new," he recalls. "My grandkids would try to teach me about computers, but I'd always say, 'You can't teach an old dog new tricks.'" Everything changed when Frank's wife gave him a tablet for his birthday. Despite his initial resistance, his 12-year-old granddaughter's patience and encouragement slowly helped him discover a world of possibilities. Starting with simple games, Frank gradually learned to use video calls, send emails, and even explore online courses. "The moment I realized I could learn something new was like a light switch turning on," Frank shares. Encouraged by this success, he began challenging other self-imposed limitations. He joined a senior swimming class, something he'd always wanted to try but thought he was too old to start. Now, at 79, Frank swims 3 times a week and has become an advocate for senior learning in his community. "My biggest regret isn't that I was too old to learn," Frank reflects, "but that I wasted so much time believing I couldn't change. Now I know that every day brings a new opportunity to grow, regardless of your age." What new skill or activity have you been telling yourself you're too old to try? How might your life be different if you challenged that belief? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story of embracing change could inspire others to break free from their own limiting beliefs. Remember, at 70 and beyond, the only real limit to change is the one we place on ourselves. The journey to a peaceful life after 70 begins with letting go, releasing toxic relationships that drain your energy, freeing yourself from the constant need for approval, making peace with past regrets that haunt your present, embracing mortality as part of life's natural journey, and shedding the belief that you're too old to change. Remember Barbara from our opening story? Today, at 75, she says, "Letting go wasn't about loss, it was about gaining the freedom to truly live." Each item you release creates space for joy, authentic connections, and new possibilities in your life. Your golden years should be exactly that, golden. You've earned the right to live peacefully, authentically, and joyfully. Start small. Choose just one thing to release this week. Your future self will thank you. Share your own letting go journey in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom that could transform your golden years. Here's to your lighter, brighter future.